understand what we're saying, but actually Christianity is quite childlike. It really does appear to be just like all the other world religions on its surface. It talks about supernatural things. It tries to explain the universe we're in and the seeming objectivity of human life in, terms that basically brush away difficult questions. So I'm sympathetic to where you're coming from. However, all I would say is, and I'll drop out for you guys to talk again after this. All I would say is, if Jesus did rise from the dead objectively in human history on this earth, then a lot of this discussion sort of would fade away before we even get into the nitty-gritty, if that makes sense. And I believe that there is quite enough objective historical evidence for his resurrection to at least give someone with a good mind pause enough to look at what some of that evidence is. 2,000 years of Christian scholarship and apologetics, like we're doing tonight, to try to frame the resurrection of Jesus Christ in real terms, not pie in the sky, not something that we just wish were true and we close our eyes and pray hard enough it is true, but something that actually happened. And so really, until we tackle that, whether we're agnostic or Christian, then we're not really dealing with the objective claims of Christianity, which can be falsified. So I'll be quiet after that.
Are you still there, Jeff?
Well, yes, I am, actually. So I was listening to every word that he was saying. So I wrestle with this idea because as a researcher, as a scientist, as a person who tries to help humankind and we try to advance science and advance our way of understanding on many different fronts, it seems as if that sometimes religion does get in the way of progress. And I'll give you an example. When we are going, to the Hill to get funding to advance, our understanding of maybe a rare disease or something, a lot of times, the more conservative echelon of our government will say, well, how will this affect, something that's said in the Bible? And a lot of times, funding is either cut off or not set aside to do this kind of research. And then you look at the other end of the people who've been affected by these rare diseases or maybe some form of rare cancer. And you have to explain to them that the funding isn't there because, X number of congressmen or senators don't want something, don't want to understand. And I'm reminded of even Michael J. Fox. I don't know if you saw Jimmy Kimmel the other day, but he's actually doing quite well in his Parkinson's because of treatment that he's had. But the religious right in this country tried stopping the progress of understanding Parkinson's disease and the treatment thereof. And I think that he would have ended up, as Richard Pryor did back in the 80s, if it wasn't for the advancement of certain treatment.
And you know what, Jeff, we're right there with you in one very specific aspect of what you're saying, and that's the desire to be moral, helpful human beings. So we share that. The rub, the difference between us is explaining why we have a moral drive at all.
Yeah,
you assume that it's moral to help cure diseases, but we, again, as Christians, are going to ask, what reason do you have? I mean, objectify why it's good to heal diseases, right? Because we certainly don't try that hard. We don't go to the Hill to try to get funding to help, cockroaches to cure their diseases. Right. We treat human beings as special. We treat human beings as something to be cherished and preserved. And so that really, why? Why is that? What is it about human beings that we believe that we ought to do something that is moral?
Yeah, and I'd like to add something really quick before you answer, Jeff. I wanted to give out that number one more time. If you want to call and talk to us, the number is 646-595-3275. This is Chad the Challenger. I got Adam and Jeff with me today. This is 1,000,000% Radio on the CC Radio Network. Don't be afraid to call. If you believe that science can disprove God, Maybe you're an evolutionist. Maybe you're an agnostic or an atheist. You really don't believe in God's existence. Here is our challenge. We believe that you need God to prove science, and I'm about to ask that question right now to you, Jeff. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you do a science experiment, this is just a fun little, you don't have to go into a long thing, and it's just everybody can throw whatever they want out. What do you need in a science experiment? Just throw things. When you have a science experiment, as you have many times, what sort of things do you bring to a science experiment? I'm just curious.
So when we go after anything, it's always about the hypothesis, right? What question is it exactly that we're trying to answer, and what type of either technology or drug treatment exists to be able to figure that answer out.
Okay, and then what do you bring? Do you bring bubblers and beakers and pens and papers and things like that?
Yeah, so like let's say we're trying to tackle a new drug treatment to, treat some form of rare disease, or we're trying to understand, some area of the developing.
Oh, hello? Hello? Oh, we got dropped. Oh, man. Well, hopefully he'll call back.
I'm still here.
I know you're still here. Okay, well, we got dropped. Yeah, he just lost his call, and that's okay. Sometimes the connection does that. I'm sure you'll call right back. If you call right back, Jeff, don't be afraid to call back. We didn't hang up on you. I think your call just got dropped. When he calls back, I'm going to ask him a really important question, Adam, which is this. If you need to bring bubblers and beakers and pens and papers and journals and chemicals and things like that, do you also need to bring morality? Do you need to bring logic? And then I'm going to, when he says yes, what I want to ask him is, if you do indeed need to bring those things, do they have to be objective? In your worldview, can you justify that objectivity? I just want to know how he's able to justify our human control mechanism called logic. I mean, honestly, you could say something like this. Did you know that we're controlled by logic every day, every second of your life? Honestly, everybody is. There's not a moment that goes on in your life where you don't use the law of non-contradiction or the law of excluded middle or the law of identity. You use it every day. In fact, I remember specifically talking to my friends, which I'm hoping they're going to be calling today. They're skeptics as well. I want to actually... Oops. 1 second here. I actually want to... I had asked them, I said, how is it that you can have your worldview but still be random and still have objectivity at the same time? And I'm going to be really curious what he says about that, if he does in fact call back. I hope he does. We got dropped here as a call, and I'm not sure why, but probably because of... Okay. Well, hey, it's been a real pleasure here as far as talking to you, Adam. Do you have any, while the call got dropped, and I'm hoping that he does get back to us, do you have any other thoughts at all to kind of leave with? I know your time is short with me, but maybe he'll come on next time. What about you, Adam? Any other thoughts about Jeff or just about this topic?
Well, just wanted to thank you for having me on. In case Jeff does come back, or even if he doesn't, I would just say, briefly, it's really cool to hear somebody who has such a passion for science and for bettering human life. That absolutely shows Jeff is made in the image of the God who loves and cares about humanity. And you don't. The thing he said about right-wing politics and Christians who are against science, that's an unfortunate truth in some places and an unfortunate stereotype in other places. We really are engaged in scientific pursuit and the bettering of humanity too. But what gets in the way is we have a standard of morality that asks, should we do this even if our technology can? And the agnostic does not have to bother with that question. Should we do this? And that really becomes the rub between us. It's not a matter of being stupid or our religion getting in the way of progress. Our question is, what is good progress? What is actually good for humanity? What should be done? And so if Jeff were to come back on, I would encourage you to press him a little on that. But I have to go.
Yes, indeed.
I really thank you for having me on tonight, Jeff.
Hey, well, it's awesome to have Adam on with me today, good friend of mine, and I will see him momentarily. I will look forward to just continue teaching with you, bro, and hopefully you can be on the show again, because we can continue this conversation or dive into another topic. I'm sure will happen here next week, possibly. Hey, this is Chad the Challenger with Adam. Adam is going to say goodbye, and I will be right back on the CC Radio Network. All right, this is Chad the Challenger with 1,000,000% Radio, and I'm excited to have the people that called today. It was a great conversation. In fact, I just tried to get a hold of Jeff. Whoops. I just tried to get a hold of Jeff now, and he's not answering. Maybe something happened to his network. I'm not sure, but it was a great conversation. Well, hey, this is Chad the Challenger. If you want to talk to me, it's area code 646-595-3275. That's 646-595-3275. I'd be happy to talk to you. I only have about 40 minutes left. I'm going to fill in the time slot talking a little more about science. What about science? Does it really disprove God? I would say no, it does not. It does the opposite. It has the opposite effect, and we're going to talk a little bit about the reason why. So, if you're listening to the network to the show today, 1,000,000% Radio, I'm excited for you to be here. I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you want to check me out on Facebook, you could just type in Facebook, 1,000,000% Proof God Exists. You can click on like, and you can follow me there. I'm going to update it, I promise you, and I really look forward to that. Now, just getting back to this particular topic, which I think is a fascinating topic. Science. What I wanted to ask Jeff was, what do you need to bring to a science experiment? And Jeff, if you're still listening, I hope you are. If you're bringing things like pens and papers, hypothesis, you're bringing journals, you're bringing bubblers and peakers. I don't even know if you call those things. I'm so ignorant when it comes to science experiments. But I would imagine you bring all kinds of science equipment. But do we need to bring morality to a science experiment? I just want you to think about that for 1 minute. Because if the evolutionary process were true, if in fact we come from primates, we're made from lesser forms of animal, we're just reacting to previous natural causes, nobody really is good, nobody really is bad, we are just dancing to the sound of our own DNA, then let me make something absolutely clear. We can cheat and lie on our experiments, and it will be perfectly okay. Did you get that? We can lie and cheat on our science experiments, and it would be perfectly okay to do that, because if God doesn't exist, there's no objective morality, it's based on opinion, and if I chose to lie on my science experiment, hey, the science experiment may be a flub, but you know something? It's okay, because we're just stardust bumping into stardust. We come out of nothing, as Lawrence Krauss has brilliantly put it. We got put here by a vacuum, a cosmic vacuum. We come out of a nothing, maybe a multi-universe, etc., etc., and we're really here without any purpose at all, including, are you ready? Morality. Morality. So please, if you've called, I want to hear from you again. It was an enjoyable conversation. with our friend Jeff, and I hope that he calls back, and if not, that's okay. We got a little bit of time left.